Black liberation in the United States is central to the global struggle for collective liberation. Organized Black resistance consistently lifts the veil on a common enemy of all oppressed and exploited people. The United States government and its rich ruling class are the largest force for white supremacy rooted in imperialism, creating terror around the world. Organized Black resistance has consistently sounded the alarm. What is allowed to be done to Black people within the supposed greatest democracy in the world can and will happen to all oppressed and exploited people, especially those who resist. It is clear that U.S. imperialism has no red lines. This country was born out of genocide of the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, and the kidnapping and enslavement of indigenous Africans. Both groups still face genocide on this land today, while the U.S. government and rich ruling class commit multiple genocides in Congo, Sudan, Palestine, and across the global South. Because all of this terror is materially connected, it's clear that everything the Black liberation struggle does to lift the boot of white supremacy and imperialism off its people's neck benefits all exploited and oppressed people around the world. The Black liberation struggle in the U.S. is one of the greatest examples we have today of how to fight locally while impacting conditions towards collective liberation across colonial borders. The Black liberation struggle lifts us all. From chattel enslavement to Jim Crow to the present conditions of state-sanctioned murder, mass incarceration, and economic violence, organized Black resistance continues to be on the front line, combating every injustice and hypocrisy that the United States perpetuates locally and abroad. Black communities in the U.S. are still dehumanized, terrorized, subjected to community-wide poisonings, and regularly stripped of life-saving resources. These tactics are practiced on Black communities in the U.S. and then exported to Haiti, Congo, Palestine, and Sudan for control of resources by the U.S. government and rich ruling class. The most profitable industries in the world are born out of imperialism, land theft, resource extraction, surveillance, policing, and weapons of mass destruction. Oppressive governments that cooperate with the U.S. gladly administer and report back on terror tactics created by U.S. imperialism. These tactics are then reiterated on Black and fellow working class communities in the U.S. This is one example of how these systems of imperialism and white supremacy are interconnected. The only reason Black people are still standing today is due to their collective organizing efforts, courage, and brilliance, not because those in power have ever done anything to change the conditions of exploitation or oppression of Black people. Through organized resistance, Black people continue to be their own liberators, to have extended their courage, skills, and solidarity to every other group of oppressed and exploited people who dare to struggle against the current imperialist world order. Nearly every nationally oppressed group in this country has cited the Black liberation struggle as an inspiration and role model for their movements, from the Young Lords, the American Indian Movement, the Brown Berets, the Young Patriots, and Asian anti-discrimination movements to oppressed groups outside of national identity, including disability, LGBTQIA, and women's liberation movements. Notably, all of these movements also include Black people. Whenever and wherever Black people in this country have risen up in organized resistance and fought to protect themselves, millions of Black and non-Black people have also benefited from this organizing work. Black resistance is internationalist, anti-fascist, and anti-imperialist. Leaders within the Black liberation struggle have historically acted from an internationalist perspective. Any win for Black people in the U.S. directly helps to weaken the chains of other oppressed and exploited people around the world, and vice versa. This action is not born out of a charity framework, but an understanding that the struggle for Black self-determination is central to the global struggle against imperialism and white supremacy. Black people, many of whom migrated from the U.S. South after actively fighting to free themselves from chattel enslavement, continue to fight for self-determination generation after generation. In the 1920s through 40s, many bravely volunteered to fight against fascism in Spain, Italy, and Germany. These were not a cohort of naive participants eager to advance U.S. imperialist patriotism, but people who understood that a threat to one is a threat to all. In the 60s and 70s, Black resistance on the ground, both in Vietnam and within the U.S., played a critical role in helping the Vietnamese people rid themselves of U.S. invaders and to strengthen the anti-imperialist movement as a whole. In turn, this organized international solidarity supported Black resistance in the U.S. as well. The Black liberation struggle, historically and currently, plays a material and pivotal role in helping other oppressed people around the world stand up against imperialism, white supremacy, and other manifestations of fascism. Despite decades of brutal efforts to stop or hinder Black liberation, Black organized resistance continues and inspires other resistance movements around the world. Yahya Sinwar, the recently assassinated Palestinian revolutionary from Gaza, praised the Black uprisings for life in the U.S. in 2020. He stated that the same exact governments, misleaders, and corporations that have their boots on the neck of Palestinians also have their boot on the neck of Black Americans. He encouraged non-Black Americans who are concerned with freedom for Palestine to join the struggle for Black liberation in their own backyard. The same forces that criminalize those fighting for a free Palestine are the same ones that criminalized the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, and all other forces for Black liberation, both then and now. However, those determined to fight for self-determination and collective liberation for all oppressed people will not be stopped. And there is a beautiful lesson in this for us all. Black resistance is ongoing, and history has shown that any advancement for Black people benefits all oppressed and exploited people. For those of us living within the belly of the beast who are concerned for the people of Congo, Sudan, Haiti, and Palestine, we must look at the oppression of Black communities in our own backyard and understand that the liberation of the colonized nations of Black peoples in the U.S., a vital and necessary part of the global struggle for collective liberation. One struggle need not be abandoned for another. This simply means that our organizing will only be effective when the collective pursuit for Black liberation is prioritized in all of our organizing work, both locally and abroad. Organized Black resistance consistently teaches us that a blow against exploitation and oppression locally is the greatest solidarity we can provide to people globally.